That was President Biden announcing his executive order, his abortion actions that he's taken. Let's bring in Jonathan Turley, a George Washington University law professor and Fox News contributor. Jonathan, it's hard to tell where to start. He mentioned the contraception case, Griswold being at risk. We know the majority opinion said it's not. He mentioned interstate travel, somehow banning women from crossing state lines. We know the Kavanaugh concurrence explicitly says that would be unconstitutional. He mentions history and tradition not being entertained appropriately by the court when, in fact, it was, and you noted so on Twitter.
Yeah, there was much about these remarks that were quite curious. I mean, first of all, he seemed to refer to Griswold as standing for the opposite of what Griswold stands for. I mean, Griswold was the protection of that right. He seemed to refer to it as the rejection of the right to use contraception. But there were some unfair moments directed at the court, not just calling them repeatedly the justices extremists, but you know, he says, as you noted, that they didn't consider the early English and American cases on abortion. That's entirely and demonstrably untrue. Now, you could disagree with how they view that history, but to say that they ignored it, it was really quite unfair. But there were other aspects that I expect justices were probably grinding their teeth when listening to this. I mean, one of them is, in fact, bringing up this issue of whether contraceptions will soon be made unlawful. That is expressly rejected in the Dobbs decision. I teach a course on the Supreme Court. I've been covering it for enough time, over 30 years. I've never seen a case where the court repeatedly and expressly dismissed a future argument. It comes back repeatedly to say this cannot be used to deny the right of contraception or to deal with interracial marriage or same-sex marriage. They repeatedly say they do not view this as analogous. Even Thomas himself says that. And by the way, Thomas has long been a critic of what's called substantive due process. He felt that they should re-examine that. He did not say that interracial marriage, like his own, should be viewed somehow as unprotected by the Constitution. There are other ways to protect those rights. Now, all of that obviously gets missed in this political atmosphere, but it was curious to see the focus on travel. You know, the traveling interstate is clearly protected under the Constitution. The Supreme Court has said that repeatedly. Justice Kavanaugh went out of his way to say that this is one of those easy issues. He said clearly states cannot prevent women from leaving to get abortion services or any types of services. Well, Kavanaugh and Roberts clearly fall into that camp. That's a majority of the Supreme Court, and I expect you could really push a near unanimity, if not a unanimity of the if not a unanimous court on that issue. So much of what the president said, frankly, I thought was fairly inaccurate and at times quite unfair.
Jonathan, one quick follow-up. You mentioned that this is a rather curious announcement, given that the president previously has questioned abortion being a right. He was a longtime supporter of the Hyde Amendment, which bars federal funds from going to abortion.
Yeah, as senator, of course, Senator Biden did not view abortion as a right. He was anti-abortion. But more importantly, he supported the Hyde Amendment, which is going to become more relevant in the days to come. That's a long-standing position that federal funds should not be used to support abortion. And to the degree to which agencies are now assisting in people getting abortion services, that could become more relevant in the days that come. There's a lot of calls for the president to use his authority to do precisely that. As a senator, Biden voted against even the compromise for rape and incest. He repeatedly voted against those exceptions in dealing with the Hyde Amendment.
Fascinating. Jonathan Turley, thank you so much for your analysis.
Hey everyone, I'm Emily Campagno. Catch me and my co-hosts Harris Faulkner and Kaylee McEnany on Outnumbered every weekday at 12 p.m. Eastern, or set your DVR. Also, don't forget to subscribe to the Fox News YouTube page for daily highlights.